The other police and me, we talked, and he said, man, Michael Jackson want to do a video, and he want real gang members. And do you and some of your homies want to do it? I said, yeah.
You definitively said that Michael Jackson was a Crip.
I don't know if he was being serious, but you seemed serious when you said it.
I've always been curious about on Better on the Other Side, your tribute to Michael Jackson. You mentioned that MJ called you up and
try to squash the beef with me and 50?
Yeah.
No one ever made Michael Jackson check in. Not the Crips, not the Bloods, because both sides saw his intent. Michael Jackson's ties to the Crips and Bloods weren't rooted in crime or gang allegiance. They were about peace.
You know, with a sign saying, Crips and Bloods, who wants to be in Michael's video. But Michael said, you know what, I'll get them, Bob, I'll get them.
By casting real gang members in Beat It and easing rival tensions, he earned rare respect.
Michael Jackson was a Crip, like he really was a Crip.
Though rumors of deeper affiliations persist, no one ever made him check in. Both sides saw his intent. This video explores how MJ built that respect, the key moments, who backed him, and why he was never challenged. Discover the underrated influence Michael Jackson had beyond music. Chapter 1. Los Angeles Gangs, a Turf War. Between the late 1970s and early 2000s, Los Angeles became one of the most visible battlegrounds of gang-related violence in the United States. Two major street organizations dominated headlines and shaped the daily lives of countless residents, the Crips and the Bloods.
There's a war going on in South Central.
The Crips, initially formed in South Central Los Angeles in 1969 by Raymond Washington and later expanded by figures such as Stanley "Tookie" Williams, spread rapidly across Southern California. In response to their growing dominance and violent reputation, the Bloods emerged in the early 1970s as a confederation of smaller street gangs, rooted primarily in areas like Compton, Watts, and Inglewood.
These Crips and Bloods have been warring for 30-odd years, one of the longest-running wars in the history of this.
By the 1980s, this rivalry had escalated into a citywide turf war. Violent confrontations between the two groups became a grim routine, with drive-by shootings, retaliatory killings, and open-air drug markets turning many neighborhoods into high-risk zones, especially for young black men. Streets like Florence Avenue, Slauson Avenue, and Crenshaw Boulevard became known as both cultural landmarks and epicenters of gang conflict. The Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, facing rising homicide and assault rates, responded by forming specialized units such as CRASH, Community Resources Against Street Hoodlums. Though intended to suppress gang activity, these units were later criticized and eventually disbanded for using aggressive and, at times, unlawful tactics that worsened tensions between police and the community. By 1983, gang violence in Los Angeles had drawn national media attention. That same year, Michael Jackson, at just 24 years old, was ascending into global superstardom. His album Thriller, released in November 1982, had quickly dominated charts, radio waves, and television screens across America. Jackson, who spent his early years in Gary, Indiana, had long been aware of urban poverty and racial division. Now based in Los Angeles, he found himself surrounded by a very different city than the one portrayed on magazine covers. In early 1983, as Billie Jean and Beat It topped the charts, Jackson made a creative choice with unexpected cultural impact. For the music video of Beat It, directed by Bob Giraldi, Jackson approved the inclusion of several real street gang members and youth from local communities, alongside professional dancers and Broadway-trained actors. The casting was handled in part by Giraldi and choreographer Michael Peters, who were both committed to creating an authentic visual portrayal of street life. While Jackson never made a public statement directly linking the video to the Crips and Bloods rivalry, the decision to bring real gang-affiliated individuals into the video served as a rare moment of inclusion. The video's message centered on rejecting violence and choosing peace, a theme underscored by its story of rival gang leaders who ultimately put down their weapons and walk away. Though it did not solve LA's gang crisis, the video offered a widely broadcast symbol of unity and nonviolence at a time when many Americans remained unaware or indifferent to the struggles of inner-city neighborhoods. Beat It became one of the most iconic videos of the era, not only for its choreography and production, but for its message. By blending entertainment with real-life issues, Jackson helped bring visibility to a crisis that many preferred to ignore. It was a moment where pop culture briefly intersected with the realities of urban America and where music, film, and street life found a shared narrative. Chapter 2. Beat It, a Studio Peace Summit. Following the unprecedented global success of Thriller, released in November 1982, Michael Jackson set his sights on delivering not just hit records, but cultural statements. Among the standout tracks was Beat It, a genre-blending anthem that fused rock and pop with a clear anti-violence message. For the music video, Jackson envisioned something different, something real. Rather than hiring only professional dancers or actors, he wanted to involve individuals who understood the subject matter firsthand.
If I get them, would you film them? I said, absolutely, Michael, as long as there's enough cops there, I'll be fine.
Jackson brought on Bob Giraldi, a commercial director from Paterson, New Jersey, whose work was known for its urban edge. Giraldi's upbringing around East Coast street life informed his approach to the project, but it was Jackson's idea to include real gang-affiliated youth, many with ties to Los Angeles street life, that gave the shoot an unprecedented authenticity.
So he gets them. And so it's the first day of shooting Beat It, and it's in a warehouse in downtown, as history shows. It's in a warehouse in downtown East LA, very tough.
Filming took place in March 1983 in Skid Row, downtown Los Angeles, especially around East 5th Street, a location known for its grit and vulnerability. The goal was not only realism, but resonance. Jackson and his team coordinated informally with local contacts to recruit individuals from various neighborhoods, some with affiliations to LA street gangs. The production budget reportedly reached $150,000, a considerable sum for a music video at the time. CBS Records initially refused to cover the cost, prompting Jackson to personally fund it. Despite the risks, the production moved forward. According to Bob Giraldi, tensions were palpable on set. Around 50 to 80 individuals with street ties were present, some watching, others participating. In interviews, Giraldi recalled a moment when hostility nearly broke out. Rather than escalating the situation or calling in security, Jackson reportedly asked for the music to be turned up and began dancing on set. The shift in energy was immediate, Giraldi said. The crowd, previously unsettled, became still. They stood like referees, he later described, neutral, watching, and quietly absorbing the moment. Whether mythologized or not, that turning point underscored Jackson's rare ability to command respect without force. The video's theme that walking away from violence was stronger than giving in carried extra weight in that setting. Jackson, deeply committed to community uplift, was not perceived as a celebrity intruding, but as someone using his platform for purpose. Some of the street-affiliated extras began to mingle with the dancers, not as choreographed participants, but as witnesses and contributors to the atmosphere. The line between actor and reality blurred. The video storyline, a confrontation that turns into a symbolic dance-off, mirrored the dynamic playing out behind the camera. For a few hours, traditional rivals stood side by side, part of a shared cultural moment. The final scene, a stylized knife fight that gives way to rhythmic movement, was infused with a tension and rawness that came from more than acting. It came from lived experience. When Beat It premiered on MTV on March 31st, 1983, it was more than just a chart-topping video. It was a visual statement that shone a light on inner-city struggles while offering an alternative vision. Bob Giraldi would later describe it as the most dangerous and most beautiful shoot of his career. For Jackson, the video became a form of activism, showing that art could briefly override division. While it did not end gang violence in Los Angeles, it created dialogue, earned respect from those involved, and stood as one of the few cultural moments where music brought sworn enemies into the same room without bloodshed. The legacy of Beat It lies not just in its success, but in its courage to depict conflict truthfully and to invite even the most unlikely people into the healing power of performance. Chapter 3. Respect, not recruitment.
You definitively said that Michael Jackson was a Crip.
I don't know if he was being serious, but you seemed serious when you said it.
Was Michael Jackson ever a member of the Crips or any street gang? The answer is no. There is no police report, FBI file, court record, credible biography, or personal interview that confirms or even seriously suggests gang affiliation. Jackson was not involved in gang life, nor did he ever claim such ties. What set him apart wasn't street credibility in the traditional sense, it was his unmatched ability to earn respect through cultural influence, quiet outreach, and humanitarian acts. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Jackson used his platform to reach young people in underserved, violence-affected neighborhoods. This included inviting youth, sometimes from gang-heavy areas, to attend his concerts, offering VIP access, backstage passes, transportation, and signed memorabilia. Many of these efforts were not widely publicized, but they were well documented through fan reports, community stories, and local press coverage. He believed in music not just as performance, but as a bridge to foster unity in communities divided by poverty, race, and violence. Over the years, Jackson's posture toward gang culture became the subject of folklore and comedy, particularly in hip-hop and social media circles. Comedians like DC Young Fly, Carlos Miller, and Chico Bean from the 85th South Show have joked about Jackson possibly being a Crip, referencing photos where he wore navy or royal blue outfits. These routines were always delivered with comedic intent, never as claims of fact. On platforms like YouTube and TikTok, fan-made compilations playfully explore this theme, often exaggerating Jackson's fashion choices for humor. Even veteran rapper DJ Quick once remarked half-jokingly that Michael Jackson had Crip energy, attributing it to his calm presence, stylish precision, and silent confidence. These comments were made with admiration and humor, not as literal assertions. Jackson's cool demeanor, unmatched global influence, and non-confrontational presence made him feel untouchable, but never because of gang ties.
Look at Michael Jackson. He got all these gangbangers behind him, and they don't f with him.
A more grounded reference comes from the late Eazy-E of NWA, who recalled encountering Jackson backstage in Detroit around 1989. In interviews and published biographies, Eazy-E acknowledged that Jackson never had to check in, a term in gang culture that refers to announcing yourself to local sets for safe movement. Jackson's mere presence was respected. His aura, artistry, and integrity granted him a pass that transcended the rules others were bound by. The truth is clear. Michael Jackson was never affiliated with gangs. No official documentation, arrest history, or credible testimony ever links him to the Crips, Bloods, or any other street organization. Yet in a city like Los Angeles, where alliances were often defined by color and code, Jackson entered and exited even the most sensitive environments without resistance. Not because he flashed signs or claimed a set, but because his music, character, and message were enough. His style may have inspired playful speculation, but the respect he earned was real, and it was built not on affiliation, but on impact. Chapter 4. When Industry Meets Street Tactics. Michael Jackson wasn't only respected in urban communities, he also claimed significant influence in the global music business. In August 1985, Jackson purchased ATV Music Publishing for approximately $47 to $47.5 million, acquiring rights to about 4,000 songs, including 251 Beatles tracks like Hey Jude, Yesterday, and Let It Be. This deal was orchestrated by his lawyer John Branca and ultimately made him one of the top music rights holders in the world. A decade later, in 1995, Jackson sold a 50% stake in ATV to Sony, creating the joint venture Sony ATV Music Publishing, a move widely praised as savvy and transformational. Fast forward to May 2007, Sony ATV, still 50% owned by Jackson, acquired Famous Music LLC from Viacom for roughly $370 million. The catalog included over 125,000 songs, featuring artists like Eminem, Beck, Shakira, and Bjork, notably including some of Eminem's biggest hits.
Stevie Wonder said that he was piling on and how really rude it was for someone who made his money from the community, as Eminem has, to now diss the community in this.
I've never met Mr. Eminem, and to have him, I've always admired him, and to have him do something like that.
Here's the twist. In 2004, Eminem's music video for Just Lose It mocked Jackson, referencing his Pepsi accident and facial changes. Jackson chose not to sue. Instead, in 2007, his stake in Sony ATV meant he indirectly owned part of Eminem's catalog. As Snopes confirms, Jackson gained partial ownership through the Sony ATV deal, not a full acquisition. Industry insiders have since described it as one of the most strategic countermoves in music history, transforming offense into influence. As one source put it, everyone said Eminem couldn't cross Michael, then MJ literally bought a piece of him. Though this exact quote appears in journalistic retellings, it reflects a broader sentiment on Reddit and in outlets like Boss Hunting. This chapter of Jackson's career caught attention not just in boardrooms but on the streets. Gangs recognized that MJ could maneuver corporate power as adeptly as he did cultural influence, and that kind of respect transcends intimidation. Chapter 5. Gangs, Culture, and Recognition. Street legends from the 1990s like Tupac and the Notorious B.I.G. revered Michael Jackson's cultural impact. Tupac sampled MJ's vocals and frequently spoke of Thriller and Bad as benchmarks in his music. Biggie, too, regularly name-checked Jackson in his lyrics, framing him as a cultural staple in hip-hop circles. But this admiration extended beyond music. Street crews took note of Jackson's business savvy, too. When he emerged victorious in corporate rings, it amplified his cultural power. If MJ could outmaneuver industry elites on spreadsheets rather than with violence, that spoke volumes in neighborhoods where escape was rarely peaceful. Crips and Bloods around Los Angeles noticed too. Jackson busted dozens of gang-affiliated youth for a Beat It shoot and later distributed food, concert tickets, and signed gear. He didn't rally crowds with threats, he attracted them through generosity and symbol. In zones marked by turf lines and distrust, his actions were seen as gestures of respect and uplift. It became clear. Influence, not intimidation, earned authenticity. Chapter 6. He never checked in, and here's why. In gang culture, anyone entering rival territory usually must check in, wear colors, acknowledge power, or gain approval. But Michael Jackson never did. Why not? 1. Jackson never claimed gang allegiance or flaunted colors. His goal was always unity, never division. He was all about intentional peace. 2. He traveled with a disciplined entourage and kept public entry points secure. Circumstances he managed, minimizing risk. 3. Previous actions like bussing in youth or staging community benefiting events sent proof. 4. His fame and message transcended fanfare. He was viewed seriously amid entertainment and humanity. The result, Crips and Bloods paused when he arrived. No initiation needed, no turf battle begun. Instead, they observed. They maintained order. When the cameras rolled, rival sets were side by side, captured, collaborating on film. The shoot represented a powerful first moment, official production, real rivals, one shared cultural moment. Trust, not violence, led the way. Chapter 7. Networks that echo beyond gangs. Michael Jackson's influence wasn't split, it was holistic. On Wall Street, he was a mogul. On Crenshaw Boulevard, he was a unifier. In business, his 50% stake in Sony ATV reshaped global music publishing. This strategic acquisition granted him partial ownership of thousands of influential songs, including rights to the Beatles' catalog. The deal, arranged by attorney John Branca in 1995, merged Jackson's ATV holdings with Sony's catalog, creating a powerhouse that reflected Jackson's vision beyond music charts. He operated not just as an artist, but as a business architect. In 2007, Sony ATV, still half-owned by Jackson at the time, acquired Famous Music LLC from Viacom for approximately $370 million. This brought in rights to songs by Eminem, Shakira, and Beck, expanding Jackson's reach into modern music portfolios. In February 1997, during a history tour stop in Hawaii, Jackson arranged for undeserved youth and military families to attend his show. That same spirit was evident in Japan, where he visited Camp Zama to meet with children of American service members and engaged warmly with fans at Tokyo Disneyland. On August 29, 1993, he celebrated his 35th birthday by inviting 100 inner-city children to Neverland Ranch for a day of fun, food, and gifts. For street communities, these acts reflected the same values behind Beat It. The novelty wasn't that a superstar showed up, it was that Jackson gave back quietly and consistently. To neighborhoods scarred by disappointment, he embodied sincerity without spectacle. He connected executive suites and inner-city blocks with equal care. He showed that creative influence could produce tangible change. Resonance with both worlds required more than talent or visibility. It required consistent presence and personal integrity. Chapter 8. Fan Theories and Street Legends.
Michael Jackson was a Crip, like he really was a Crip.
On TikTok and Instagram, comedic memes about MJ being a Crip circulate daily. DJs and rappers like DJ Quick joke about MJ having Crip energy, clips show Jackson in blue outfits, fan theories tease that he wore colors on purpose. But researched history tells a different story. There are 0 gang records, no criminal affiliations, and no insider verification. His public persona, interviews, and legal backgrounds offer no links to street sets. Yet the rumors persist, and not by mistake. They thrive because of what he achieved. He entered contested zones, walked with adversaries, and left respected without membership, violence, or lies. He appeared in spaces where few high-profile figures were welcome, navigating them with calm, respect, and consistency. In doing so, he became a figure of quiet significance not just in global pop culture, but in local memory, where genuine intent and visible impact often leave the deepest impression. Michael Jackson didn't check in with Crips or Bloods because he first checked into humanity. He stood as a unifier, bridging divides with art, presence, and vision. He didn't need weapons or membership. He used music, peace, and generosity. In March 1983, he brought together dozens of rival street members on a single set. 15 years later, when Eminem mocked him, Jackson responded by owning a stake in his publishing, all without lawsuits. He earned respect from gangs, artists, executives, and fans alike. Jackson never joined a set, he joined a purpose. When no one forced him to check in, he did it by checking himself in with integrity, respect, and purpose. That's influence redefined for an entire world to watch.